Soroka looked solid in his return, but the offense and the bullpen let him down. We'll discuss that and also talk about the best options in left field for the Atlanta Braves right now. All that on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on Twitter at ShortstopBall. Also, check out my written work over at BravesToday.com. Make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback that you have for the podcast. If you're new, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching this video there, hit that thumbs up button to help support the show. And thanks for all the support that you give me, making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. And thanks to all my everydayers out there, several who let me know in the last two episodes that I want to give a shout out to. Darren Dewop, Jeffrey Humphreys, who likes every episode. I appreciate that, Jeffrey. It does mean a lot when you hit that like button. Dave Roseman, Tito Snabbits, trying to be an everydayer, Tito says. Fernandez de la Luz from Arizona and Yvette, thank you so much for your service. Robbie Patrick listens to every podcast and postcast. Appreciate those who let me know that you listen to both. Robert Burton, Jeff Barry, Docs Cards, David Agnesia, Ray Day, Phil, Top Braves Podcast, he says. That means a lot because there's a lot of great podcasts out there. And Warren 380. Thanks to all my everydayers. If you're an everydayer, let me know down in the comments section below. On today's podcast, we are going to break down Michael Soroka's comeback start, which I was very excited about, obviously, to watch. And then even after watching it, I got a lot of good things to say. I know the outcome wasn't great in the game, embarrassing, losing to the worst team in baseball, no doubt about it. But when I just look at his start, I think there's some highly encouraging things that I saw for Michael Soroka in this. So we'll talk about that. And then in our Taco Tuesday segment, we're going to discuss left field, which has become, there's always got to be something on the team that we're complaining about, whether it's Ozuna, the struggles for Riley, the defense, the bullpen. And now it seems like a lot of focus has started to turn towards Rosario and left field. So we're going to discuss that on today's episode as well. And I'll take you through some of the options the Braves have right now for the left field situation. And then we'll preview Tuesday night's game, where hopefully the Braves offense is going to wake up in even the series. Well, let's start out talking about Michael Soroka's return. And first of all, been said it several times now, but just remarkable to get back to this point after what he's been through, the two Achilles injuries, all the surgeries he's had to overcome, the rehab. We're talking about 1,000+ days since he last pitched on a big league mound. Again, I just cannot overstate the amount of work and dedication that it's taken to get back to this point. But we've said all that, and now we've seen him. So now it's time to talk about the performance and what we could see going forward with Soroka. Look, for me, he made it through 6 innings. Great, probably even more than I would have or could have hoped for. And he looked good. He looked healthy. That's the primary takeaway from all this. But let's dive into the specifics of the outing and what I saw. An emotional first inning for him as well. I didn't really see anybody mention it, but to me on the broadcast, it looked like he was tearing up, especially after that first strikeout. And, would not blame him if that's the case. Maybe that's his face, and I'm not trying to make fun of his face or anything, but it looked to me like he was getting emotional out there and perhaps tearing up a little bit. And again, I just think, a lot obviously had to be a lot of emotions running through him in this outing. Now, the line scores 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 walks, 2 hit batters, 4 earned runs, and 3 strikeouts. Gave up the 1 home run, and it was a really big blow in this one. 83 pitches, very, very efficient. 9 ground outs to 2 flyouts. Pretty typical for Michael Soroka. He's going to get a lot of ground ball outs. You did kind of see later in the outing, looked like he was leaving some pitches up and starting to give up some hits and some flyouts, and batters were able to start to get under the ball, maybe just a sign of him tiring out. But we'll talk about that more in a second. First real jam that he ran into in the 3rd inning, bases loaded, 1 out, And then he got a big double play. That was huge. And that's going to happen with Soroka. He's going to give up his share of hits, but he's always one pitch away from getting 2 outs with that sinker, with all the movement, downward movement that he has on his pitches. And that helped him get out of a big jam there in the 3rd inning. Then you get to the 5th inning, and that's where, he had a really bad sequence of things that kind of got away from him. And I think if there were one pitch that you could take back in this outing, even more so than the home run ball, it's the 0-2 pitch to Langoliers that just got away from him, ran up and in, and then it just seemed like things got off the tracks after that. But he hits Langoliers with the 0-2 pitch. He leaves a sinker up at the top of the zone to Jonah Bride, who was able to line it into center for a hit. Ruiz then finds a hole on the left side as well, which tied up the game, scored a run. It didn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but I wanted to point it out because we're going to talk about left field here later. But that throw from Eddie Rosario has to hit the cutoff man. If you hit the cutoff man there, you probably get an out at third base because it looked like that runner was going no matter what. That ball's got to hit the cutoff man. It just has to. And again, if you do that and you get an out at third, that's one less run that scores on the home run that followed. So bad decision there by Eddie Rosario. Let that run score. You got to believe in your offense that they're going to score more runs. I know they eventually didn't, but that's just a bad play all around. You allowed not only the runner from second to get to third, but you allowed the runner that hit the ball to get to second. You took out the double play and you put runners at second and third with 1 out. So bad play there by Eddie Rosario. Again, it didn't matter because the next batter threw a changeup. It was supposed to be off the plate, down and away. It ended up down, but over the plate. And Ryan Noda, a very strong guy with a lot of power, was able to pull it out to right field for the 3-run homer, and just felt really bad at that point. And next thing you know, a 1-0 lead turns into a 4-1 deficit for Michael Soroka and the Braves. I did love that he came back out after that. Well, first of all, he finished that inning, which was huge. And then he came back out for a 6th inning. I think, that speaks very high to where Michael Soroka is right now in his comeback. Now, looking at the start overall, he struggled with command at times. And, that's probably to be expected for a guy who was emotional out there, hasn't pitched in 2.5 years. It did look like the stuff maybe started to tail off towards the end of the outing, which again, a guy hasn't pitched at this level in 2.5 years. But overall, I thought the stuff was great. And that's what has me, highly encouraged for Soroka going forward. He was able to use that sinker to throw it in on righties and dive in on them, get them to swing over that. And on top of it for some weak ground outs, he was also able to throw the slider. I think it was the one pitch that maybe wasn't there throughout for him that he really kind of had to find was that slider, getting it down and away to righties. And then the changeup, other than the one that he missed to Ryan Noda, was just absolutely destroying lefties. I mean, he was just running it off the plate away from lefties, and that was a really great pitch for him. So all of his stuff had a ton of movement. I thought it all looked great. 82.2 mile per hour average exit velocity against just 4 hard hit balls against him. So that to me is very encouraging. He wasn't giving up a ton of hard contact. Even the starts you watched at AAA this year, yeah, he was giving up a lot of hits, but it was a lot of weak contact that just happened to get through a hole on the infield. So that's going to happen with Soroka. You hope with a major league defense that, some of those will become outs or he'll get some more double plays with those balls, but still nothing hit extremely hard against him. A lot of movement on the pitches. That to me was the Michael Soroka we saw before. I'm not saying he's going to be an ace type level pitcher again, but that to me was highly encouraging, very efficient as well. Love to see that. I mean, I think he probably could have gone another inning if you wanted him to, just based on where his pitch count was. You do have to take in mind the opponent and the A's, and one of the worst teams in baseball, one of the worst lineups in baseball. So you have to take some of this with a grain of salt, but just looking at the stuff, I thought it was really good. He also had some good defense behind him. Eddie Rosario, I got on him for the bad throw he made, but he did also rob a home run in this game. Austin Riley made a good play over at first base, and he had the double play as well. They got him out of a jam. But again, when I look at the start and I just analyze what I saw visually from Soroka, highly encouraged. I think it went way better than I could have even imagined. I think there's potential here for him to be a really good major league pitcher again. I think we're going to see outings this year where he goes 6, 7 innings and gives up 2 earned or less. I think with the stuff that he has, the arsenal that he has, what I saw on Monday night, I was highly encouraged. I thought it was very good stuff. It looked like the Michael Soroka giving up that weak contact, able to use that pitch mix very effectively. So I was excited. I know it was a bad loss, and I even told myself going into it not to really focus on the outcome and just enjoy the Soroka outing, and I still found myself getting highly frustrated for losing to the worst team in baseball, but I loved what I saw for Michael Soroka in this outing. I can't wait to see him pitch again. And I think just like in the minors this year, he continually got better. I think he'll continually get better and more comfortable at the major league level. Now, we do have to talk briefly about the lack of offense. I say briefly because there's not much to talk about, but I'll give the excuse. Sunday night baseball game on the East Coast. You got to travel to the West Coast. You get in at 3 a.m. local time, 6 a.m. Eastern, and then you got to get up and play a game that's a little bit earlier than normal for a West Coast game. Started at 5:07 locally, would normally start at 6:40 local as they are on Tuesday night. So understand maybe the offense dragging a little bit in this one. Still, you got to find a way to score more than 2 runs against the A's. So that excuse falls a little bit short, but it is legitimate. Scored in the first inning, had a chance to do more, had first and third with 1 out, and then Ozuna and Rosario struck out. We're going to talk more about them here in a second. Ozuna had some really bad swings in this game that looked more like the 2.5-year version that we saw from Ozuna before his May outbreak. Then they just went silent. They did have some base runners, had 2 on with 2 outs in the third, but Ozuna in a big spot again popped out. Ozzy had a 1-out double in the fourth, but then Arcia struck out and Michael Harris grounded out. And then A's brought in this reliever who was a former position player, and I apologize, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he looked really good. Everybody's saying the Braves need to trade for him, and maybe they do, but he went 1, 2, 3 in the 5th, 6th, and 7th innings, and that was just brutal for the Braves right there. You still felt like they had a chance. It was a 4-1 ball game. You felt like they were going to chip away and get back in this game against that A's bullpen, and that guy, Essig, I apologize, I know I'm messing up the name there, but he was lights out, and that really, hurt any type of rally chance for the Braves. And then Acuna lines out at 116 miles per hour to start the 8th inning, a ball where the left fielder barely needs to move. It was that kind of night. Braves didn't make a lot of hard contact, just 6 hard hit balls, but had a couple of tough lineouts, one for Acuna there in the 8th, one for Michael Harris earlier in the game. And then, of course, after the lineout for Acuna, Matt Olson goes deep. Could have been a 2-run homer, made it a 1-run game, but just wasn't to be on Monday night. And then last thing I want to mention here, Lucas Litke. I get it. He's only on this roster right now because he's left-handed and Dylan Lee is on the IL. That's all I can say at this point. It has not been a good experiment. It has not been a good relationship with the Braves. Yankees DFA'd him for a reason, and it has not worked out here. And I think if he weren't left-handed, he wouldn't be on this roster. 72 pitches in his last 2 outings. He's gotten 3 outs. That is just insane to think about and say out loud. 72 pitches to get 3 outs in his last 2 outings. I mean, Soroka just pitched 6 innings using 83 pitches. It's just crazy to think about. I mean, no ill will towards the guy. It just hasn't worked out. And I think it's probably time to make a change there. I mean, it went from a manageable 4-2 game to it's just a blowout to the worst team in baseball. So sorry, Lucas, no ill will against you. Probably time to go and try somebody else there, whether it's Danny Young or hopefully Dylan Lee is back very soon. But just not working out for Litke. Can't trust him whatsoever. It's a game that the Braves could have come back and won, but after that inning, giving up 3 runs, it was over. And that can't happen, especially against a team like the A's. You should be able to come in and keep things at bay. That wasn't meant to be for Lucas Litke and the Braves on this night. Next, I want to talk about left field. Something that a lot of Braves fans have been talking about on Twitter is Eddie Rosario's time up. Do they need to try something else? I'll give you the best options the Atlanta Braves have right now for left field next. Make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA Finals right now, which I believe are the Heat and the Nuggets. Not big on the basketball scene myself, but if you are, you can head on over to FanDuel because right now new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's $2,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. They have great promotions every day, a safe and secure app, and you can get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sports book. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Also, go to FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. Again, FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. The Braves play the A's on Tuesday night at 9:40 p.m. Eastern. We'll see if the offense can wake up in time for this game to even the series. Catch every pitch of the Braves' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. All right, if you missed it, on Monday, as you were enjoying Memorial Day, we did our Minors Monday update. Talked about A.J. Smith-Shawver's great performance. David McCabe starting to show power down there for Augusta. So make sure you go back and give that a listen if you haven't already. Tomorrow will be our Stat of the Day Wednesday. Then we'll have our Through the League Thursday and our Mailbag episode on Friday. But today, it's Tuesday, so we're talking about what you were talking about on Braves in Braves country right now. And one of the biggest talking points of Braves country right now is the left field and what's going on out there. Does Eddie Rosario, is it time to move on from him in left field? So I'm going to give you the top options for the Braves right now. In left field, the Braves rank 25th in WAR. Not great, but actually they rank 27th in center field with the start that Michael Harris has gotten off to. That is the worst position on the team right now, but left field hasn't been great either. And while we think Michael Harris, or I believe Michael Harris, will turn things around, I don't know that you can say that for left field. It was a problem area coming into the season you knew about. Nothing was really done to address it. We were hoping Rosario would kind of pick things up, and he showed signs, flashes of that early in the year, but now we're 2 months in and hasn't really gotten it going. Here are the candidates really quickly: Rosario, Ozuna, Hilliard, Pilar, Solak, and Eli White. Those are the guys on the 40-man roster. With Rosario, again, 160 at-bats, only almost 2 months worth of action now. He's slashing 238, 268, 406, 5 home runs, 7 walks, 44 strikeouts. Not great. His K percentage is at 25%. And Rosario, the one thing that he did well that I liked about him and liked in this lineup that does have a lot of swing and miss is that he put the ball in play. Well, now he's not doing that. His K rate is the same as it was last year when he couldn't see. So that's not encouraging to me at all. A guy that's still striking out a lot and somebody who's supposed to be a bat to ball contact type of hitter and just a 4.3% walk rate. So you're not walking, you're not getting on base, and you're striking out, at a somewhat normal clip, I guess, for hitters today, but still, not great either. 25% is not very good when he was around 15% from 2017 to 2021. He is hitting the ball harder, but is that coming at the expense of all the strikeouts and the swing and miss that we're seeing from him this year? The defense has actually been solid. You saw the good and the bad on Monday night. You saw the great catch at the wall to rob a home run. And then you saw, a bad decision by missing the cutoff man, which, again, could have cut him off and gotten out at third base, I think. At very least, maybe you keep the double play in order. Again, it didn't matter in that instance, but just not good baseball there. But the defense overall, you look at the metrics, some of the metrics on FanGraphs, and he's actually been okay relative to his peers. But overall, still not a very good defender. The arm is declining. It was once a really good arm. Now it's kind of just middle of the pack average. He's hitting just 214 against righties with a 607 OPS. This is a guy, a lefty hitter who you thought at least could be in a platoon situation to take care of righties, but he's not hitting righties well this season. A 607 OPS against righties. Now, looking at Sam Hilliard, which is probably, if you wanted to stick with a left-handed option, this would be your next guy. A good defender, fast, good power. Those are the positives there. 43% strikeout rate so far this year, 8% walkout rate. That's just not going to cut it. He's been better against righties. So again, if you wanted to go to some sort of a platoon, at least Hilliard is hitting righties better this year. He is fast, a good defender, and has good power, and was good when he was getting everyday at bats as well. Kevin Pillar, I know somebody that a lot of people have been clamoring for. Good defender, good speed, doesn't walk a lot, but he crushes lefty. He needs to be starting against every lefty that the Braves face this year. He needs to be in the lineup for the Braves because he just absolutely crushes left-handed pitching and really has throughout his career. Nick Solak, not a great fielder. He is fast, an 808 OPS at Gwinnett this year. Reverse splits down at Gwinnett, or really throughout his career. He hits better against righties as a right-handed hitter. Eli White, he's been great at AAA this year, a guy that I've kind of been excited about to want to see get an opportunity. He did get called up briefly, but didn't really get to play a lot. But at AAA this year, slashing 267, 353, 505, 14 walks, 36 strikeouts, and 101 at bats, 10 stolen bases, and 6 home runs. So a guy who has shown some power, has some speed, a good defender, pretty even against righties and lefties, but he is better against lefties. And he's always hit very well at the minor league level. And you just hope that one day that's going to translate to the big leagues. He's somebody, though, if he's going to get called up, I want to see him play every day. Give him a week or two every day and see what kind of at-bats that he can have. But another guy who's a good defender, good speed, if you wanted to just go that option. So who's it going to be? If you aren't using Rosario, then I don't know that he really has a spot on this roster. I guess you could use him as a left-handed, bench bat for sure. Would you platoon Hilliard and Pillar? Would that be better than what you're getting out of Rosario right now? Maybe. Again, the strikeout numbers for Hilliard are highly concerning right now. From what we've seen, even when he was swinging the bat well, it was pretty much, home run or bust for Hilliard early on. But I think we may be leaning to the point where a Hilliard Pillar platoon is better than what you're getting out of Rosario. Should Pillar just play every day? I still don't know about that either. I mean, you're talking about a number 30s, veteran outfielder. He knows he's going to give you good defense, but he's really just, when he's hit well, mostly it's been against lefties. Maybe you do give him an everyday shot out there. I mentioned with Eli White, I think if you're going to bring him up, I want to see him get everyday opportunities because he'd be on the bad side of a platoon, only facing lefties. And I really want to see him, get an opportunity to play every day and see what that looks like. Or, I haven't mentioned this yet, do you live with Ozuna's defense out there? And I think that might be the way to go for now. If Ozuna's bat continues to be hot, which he's just 1 for 13 over his last 3 games with no walks and 4 strikeouts, very small sample size. But I think with Ozuna, you got to be very cognizant of when the cold streak could come. Some really bad swings here lately. I think that's something you really got to watch. And I think you got to have a quick hook on Ozuna if you start to see those swings again. But he has been hot for the month of May. I think maybe for now you live with him in left field and the defense, and that way you get both catchers in the lineup and you just go for an all offensive lineup and hope that you can outscore your opponent. I think that might be the best option for right now. One thing that is very key in all this is Michael Harris has to get going. I think he's actually the key to this left field discussion in general, because if Michael Harris is going and he gets going with the bat, you can move him up to the middle of the order and you can place Ozzie Albies behind him to protect Ozzie. And I like having a lefty behind Oz or in front of Ozzie Albies. And that's why you've seen Rosario up in the order with Ozzie behind him. If Michael Harris gets going and he can be that lefty in the middle of the order, and then you can live with a defense-only player in left field and bat him 8th or 9th in the order. You can put Pillar, Hilliard out there, maybe Eli White if you call him up, and you can live with it knowing you're going to get solid defense and knowing you have solid offensive production throughout the rest of the order. But until Michael Harris gets going and shows that, then I think you almost have to go with the offensive upside in left field until you see Michael Harris get going. So that's why I think the best option for now might be Ozuna in left field. And I can't believe I'm saying that because I've gone on record saying I never want to see him in the field again, but that might be the option right now. If not, then I think we're probably just going to be stuck with Rosario and hope that he gets going. I wouldn't mind seeing Hilliard get another opportunity in a platoon situation with Pilar and Hilliard. I think that's probably maybe the best option, especially if Ozuna is going to start to struggle at the plate. Because I don't know what you're going to get out of Hilliard every day at this point. Again, was solid before, but that strikeout rate of over 40%, it's just not going to cut it. And then you could use Rosario as a bench bat, in some clutch spots against a tough righty or whenever you face the Dodgers. But those are your options. They're not great. Maybe they do look to make an upgrade there at the trade deadline. But for now, I think maybe you go with Ozuna, live with the defense, and then you can get Travis d'Arnaud and Sean Murphy at DH at bats every day and just go with an all-out offensive attack. If Michael Harris gets going, then maybe you do go with a platoon of Pilar and Hilliard and just have some great defense in left field, put them at the bottom of the order, and any offense you get is a plus. That's probably the way that I would go right now, but it's not a great situation. It's definitely hurting the Braves, something that they didn't address in the offseason, really kind of coming back to bite them right now. They need to get better production out of left field. That's the obvious statement of the podcast. All right, next we're going to turn our attention to game 2, where hopefully the Braves offense is going to get going and even up this series. They'll do so with Bryce Elder on the mound. All right, in game 2 against the Oakland Athletics in Oakland, it'll be Bryce Elder versus Sears of Oakland. Sears this season, he's 10 starts, 0-3, 4.70 ERA, but just a 1.10 whip, 53 and 2/3 innings, 49 hits, 10 walks, 6 hit batters, 12 home runs. He's given up a lot of home runs this year, 52 strikeouts. Been good in the month of May, though, a 3.25 ERA, a 0.98 whip. He's gone at least 5 innings in all 5 starts in May and given up 2 earned or less in 4 of them. So this is the guy who's really starting to pitch better. Lefties have actually hit him better this year. He is a left-handed pitcher, which usually means very good things for this Braves lineup, but he's actually held lefties down pretty well this season, and it's been righties that have hit him better. He is 53% fastball, 31% sweeper, 11% changeup. So you look at it, it's a lefty starter, gives up a lot of home runs, throws over 50% fastball. That seems like a perfect matchup for this Braves offense. Let's hope that's the case, and let's hope they get going, can support Bryce Elder. I mentioned this on the postcast. I'm very curious to see what Soroka and Elder look like back-to-back because they're both very similar pitchers, a little bit different arm angle, but, both work on deception, movement, weak contact. Does a team, after seeing Soroka, are they more prepared for a starter like Elder? I wouldn't mind seeing those two guys get broken up in the rotation at some point. I don't love having them back-to-back, but hopefully it won't affect Elder. He'll have a good game on Tuesday. Braves offense will just go nuts after a slow day on Monday, and the Braves can have a good, easy, big win over the A's to even up the series and then hopefully get an opportunity to win it on Wednesday afternoon. All right, that will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. The Braves and A's play on Tuesday night at 9:40 p.m. Eastern. It's Elder versus Sears. Catch every pitch of the Braves hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. Thanks as always for listening. Follow us on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. You can follow me at Shortstop Ball. Thanks again to all my everyday listeners out there. If you are one, let me know down in the comments section below. But again, that will do it here for Locked On Braves. Make sure that you follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.